It was absolute hell. Because when I grew up, nobody knew about dyslexia. Dyslexia was a completely thing that people were unaware of. So I was often sent to the headmaster, and secondary school I was made to be the silly girl. So then the teacher, I used to write stories. I always loved writing, and I always wanted to write even then. So I'd write stories, bring them into the English teacher, and she would destroy them and make them a model of how not to do it, a John Cleese model, how not to write a story. So then that caused the girls to pick on me, because it was like the teacher had picked on me. So I got bullied, so I became a fighter because I was so angry. So it was very difficult, and that's what happens.
By the time I reached the age of 15, I had learnt the art of survival and was a lot tougher than when I first arrived in London. With my total lack of academic results, I was asked to leave school at the age of 15. So with no choice but to quit education, I went out into the big wide world. And when I look at 15-year-olds now, they are so young. So a week before the leaving date, I was sent to a careers advisor. I walked into her office. She had a file with my name on it. I sat down in front of her and she looked at me. "What do you want to do?" she asked. "I want to be a journalist," I replied positively and enthusiastically. She looked at my file and laughed. "You're joking! You can barely read and write," she said mockingly. I glared at her. "I can read," I insisted, feeling insulted, "and I can write, I just can't spell." She looked at me irritated. "Your only hope is getting a job in Woolworths," she said disparagingly, and threw an application form across her desk at me. I threw it straight back. "I'll get a job in an office then," I exclaimed. "You have no qualifications. How will you get a job in an office?" she asked. And that was her gift to me. I would invent qualifications for a job. After another vote of no confidence from her, I got up. "You just watch me," I exclaimed, and stormed out, slamming the door. I was glad to leave school because as a dyslexic, it was a place of constant negative input, which I was determined to fight as I had been ridiculed in front of the class on so many occasions. I needed to prove I was worthy in life.
I have the master's degree of the University of Life. I was educated when I left school. My first job was with Gonzales Bias, pulling punch cards, and I was in computers. And it always fascinated me from the first job I had, how businesses were run. I found that really fascinating. Then I got a job with Chelsea Girl, which is now River Island, as their house model. And I worked with Mr. Bernard and Alison, and I used to try on all the clothes. And I was fascinated by that industry, and I've got it in the book, where the fashion designer is in charge of all the designs come in, the house model tries them on, they order them in, and then they cut the cloth.
I turned up on my first day, excited, delusional, but proud. He took me to an office with one other girl who was typing with earphones attached to an audio machine. She was typing really fast without looking, about 60 words per minute, and that's how we measured typing then. I was probably 10 words per minute with spelling errors. I sat down on the desk opposite her, and the man handed me a miniature tape to put in the audio machine and left. I put the tape in the machine, put the paper in the typewriter, and pressed play. The voice of the man rang in my ears, "Dear sir or madam." I was trying to type, but he was talking too fast, so I rewound it. Kathy, the girl opposite, stopped what she was doing and said, "You can slow it down." So I stopped, so I slowed it right down. It sounded like this. "Dear sir." I had accidentally pressed the speaker. So there I was with my new boss's voice ringing out in the office, and my new boss walked back in. He looked distressed and looked at my work and said very slowly, "You cannot type, can you?" he asked. "It's my fault. I should have given you a typing test." He was apologising. I looked at him wide-eyed and shook my head. He continued, "You can't spell either, can you?" My eyes widened and my head shook faster. I sat there, the career advisor's words ringing in my ears. "Stay there! Don't move!" he exclaimed. So I waited there, fearful that I was now jobless. He came running back into the office with a softly spoken tall man with glasses called Stephen Taylor. "This is Stephen," he told me. "He is looking for a girl Friday on International Freighting Weekly. Are you interested?" "Yes," I said excitedly. A great relief came over his face, and Stephen escorted me into the room next door. It was a large room, and there were 3 very good-looking young journalists sitting at their desks. There was a 4th desk with an IBM typewriter on it, which was for me. At the end of the room was a door into another room. On it said Stephen Taylor, editor. I was very nervous. Stephen took me into his office and explained the job. "You'll be filing photographs mostly of juggernauts, ships and ports, typing, making appointments for the boys, and booking hotels, and typing my letters." I looked at him sheepishly and said, "Did the other man tell you I could not type very well and my spelling is terrible?" Stephen looked at me and smiled. "Don't worry, you will learn. There is more filing than typing, and I will teach you to spell." He was so kind.
Yes, yeah, I think they, Stephen recognised my skill. I'm a great organiser. I don't look up, with a dyslexic, certain dyslexics, we're not all the same, you can look chaotic to the outside world and people think, my God, what's going on in her life? But you're organising the whole time. My daughter's the same. Bosses used to recognise your skills, and I was very good at organising the journalists and the photographs, the roll-on, roll-off. It was very, interesting for a while, and I was with journalists, so I was thinking, oh, I could get trained as a journalist. There wasn't a hope in hell for that, but never mind. But, yeah.
The amount of people that buy the book in the shop is startling, because you start to realise that this is something that needs to be changed.
And we want to change it to a positive thing. So we want it to be a glory to be dyslexic, and for people to understand us. And for the reason I've written this book is because of my niece, who also left school at 15 in 2014. Now, her school, and I was absolutely mortified, because I thought, here we go again. She's going to have to go through the trials and tribulations of my life. Now, people say to me it's different now, but it's not. She was neglected at school, and she was missed. I did try to help and get extra tuition, but it didn't work out. And she left school. The school was Ofsted, so it was a really bad school. The head was running a bad school. So the children, like Tilly, in that school, got left out. And she rebelled. She became rebellious. And I thought, I've got to write about this, because Tilly, in 2014, this isn't good enough. We should be beyond that. The teachers in the school should be recognising the dyslexia, not creating the rebellion. She had the same experience as me. She was ridiculed in class. She's written it in the book. I've interviewed her. She's in the book. And she rebelled. If you are ridiculed, you rebel, because you want to be seen. You don't know what to do. So it's so important to value everyone within the system.
Business is about passion. You might say business sometimes appears soulless and fickle, but I think this is because some people's passion is purely the art of making money. My life has to have creativity in it. I'm passionate about glass and what it does. The truth of colour it reflects, all of its mediums. The fact it fascinates me and is so important in our lives, to give us light in our houses through windows, lenses in our glass, the silicon chip which gave us computers. Of course, the best thing for me is that we can fuse it, blow it, and we can make it into wonderful works of art. Your passion can be anything But if you are going to create a business, it is like having a child. You need to love it as it is, and it will cause you sleepless nights and take your tolerance levels to heights you did not know you have. It also goes through different growing pains and stages. Before I had a business like anyone else, I daydreamed that it would be easy and I could float around doing what I wanted. It is the polar opposite. So before you enter into your world of business, be prepared to give your life and soul to it, or forget it, as it will fail.
I just need to say, believe in yourself, you're wonderful, you're a superstar, and just go out there and do whatever you want, and do a bit of positive visualization. So visualize what you're going to do before and go and do it.
All right, thank you.